Hello, welcome to episode 35 in the Datapack tutorial series. We're going to be making a spacesuit and space, which is a bit weird, making space. This is from an idea on Discord by WizSpencer, who says, wanted a spacesuit or a space helmet, so when you go outside into space, you lose oxygen and you get damaged. And this is what I've come up with. So I've got myself a spacesuit. There's legs, there's my whole spacesuit. And I have defined this area within here as space. What I've done is I filled it with void air, but you could give the player a tag or something. We'll go into that a bit later. So this is normal air right here, and I am not wearing a spacesuit at the moment. If I go into space, I'm going to start getting damaged. And since I'm in space, I can jump around and fly, but then I come back inside and I'm all fine again. Okay, normal jump, normal everything else. If I put my spacesuit on, I'm going to start using oxygen, but I can go into space now and I'm not going to take any damage, and I can still jump around. Okay, let's go back out. If I want to charge up my oxygen level, I can stand on the oxygen recharger, and we'll see, there we go, it's filled my oxygen up. Cool. Or if I want to fill it up, I could use an oxygen tank. Here I have one, this has got 9,600 left, and this one is a smaller tank. This can only take 6,000, but it is full, which is why it's got a glint. So if I use the one 9,600, what are we going to do? We're going to take about 400 off it by the look of it. So I use that. I shop. Don't worry, we'll remove that shop bit. I just put that in for testing. And now if we look at the tank, we'll see that a bit has gone out the tank, but it filled me up. Okay. And if I want to fill the tank up, I can put the tank onto the oxygen filler. It's filling the tank up. And now the tank is full. We can tell because it's got the little oxygen glint. Okay, so that is what we're making. Let me take my spacesuit off so I'm not using up my oxygen. It's going to be a bit of a long one. We're going to be using an advancement, item modifiers. We're going to be using predicates. If there's any one point you think, oh, well, I don't really understand the item modifier bit or the predicate bit, then just chuck a comment down in the description. And if I can't explain it using words, I can always make another video just focusing on that part. Anyway, grab yourself a sandwich or something because we're going to be here for quite a long time. So let's get on and build it now. Okay, let's start in VS Code. If you don't know how to get to having a basic data pack, you can watch episode 1. And we're going to create some folders and files. Right, in my namespace, I'm going to create a new folder. And it will be advancement, because we're going to put some advancements in there later. Well, just one. And namespace again, new folder. I will need a couple of item modifiers later. And in namespace again, new folder. We're going to want predicate. Okay. And now let's create a new folder inside function, and this is where I'm going to put my functions. New folder. I'll just call it space, I think will do. Okay, so we're going to have a few things in here. I want to be able to give the player a spacesuit. So we'll make a new file, and we'll call it give suit. I want to be able to give the player an oxygen tank. I'm going to have 2 of these, I think, because we'll have different values. So I'll give a tank that contains 6,000 oxygen. And I will copy and paste that. And we'll also have a tank that gives 12,000. An even bigger tank. Now we want to process the player if they are in air. So process player in air. Oops, I didn't add the little MC function at the end. .mc function. I want to process the player if they are in space. So let's copy that one. And I want to process the player if they're wearing their spacesuit. So I'm going to copy again. Okay. Now I want them to be able to refill their oxygen using some sort of charging pad. So we'll just do a copy and a rename. That's not rename, I pressed the wrong button. F2 to rename. Refill, it's going to be the player, so player using charger. And I want them to be able to refill their tanks on the charger as well, so copy and paste that one. And we'll change this to refill tank using charger. I'm going to have an oxygen display, so what should we call this one? Update oxygen display. And we want them to be able to use the oxygen tanks to top up their oxygen. So let's make one more. Use oxygen tank. Okay, that seems all right. I think the first thing we'll start with is with giving the player the things they need. So we'll probably go straight on to give suit. I'm going to do a little bit of copy and pasting in this one just to save time. I'm not going to go too crazy on any commands. It's not going to be cut, paste, quick. So in here we're going to give the player the suit. Now I want to use a head for the helmet. So I'm going to go over to the Minecraft heads, and I found this astronaut helmet on Minecraft heads. And there's a give code here. I'm going to copy that. Copy. And it says latest version, so for me 1.21, that's okay for me. And I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to paste that in there. But it's going to have a lot of stuff we don't want. For instance, I don't want their custom name. I don't want their custom lore. I do want that profile. So I want the profile ID, that's important, this one here, and I want the properties for this texture, that's important. So let's get rid of all this lore, and let's get rid of all this custom name as well. We'll get rid of all of that, and we'll put in our own stuff. I could have just left custom name there, because I am going to now literally put one in. Custom name equals... And what should we call it? We'll just call it Spacesuit Helmet. Okay, and we need a bit of custom data. Custom data equals open and close curlies, and we'll say Spacesuit true. Right, I think that's all we need. So I've given it my own name, I've given it custom data, which is nice and important, and then it's got the ID and the texture. Let's get rid of that slash at the beginning. Okay, that seems all right. Now let's make some leggings. So we'll just give the executor iron. Actually, we'll do chest plate first. Minecraft iron chest plate. We'll have an item. Well, we used custom name before. Should we stick with the same thing? Let's use custom name again. Custom name equals spacesuit body, and the important tag custom data equals spacesuit true. Okay. And I said I'd do a little bit of cut and pasting, and it is true. Bump. There we go. So all I've put in there is, you can see we've got iron chest plates, spacesuit body, custom data, iron leggings, spacesuit legs, custom data, iron boots, spacesuit boots, custom data. Okay, so that's giving the spacesuit. Let's save that. Let's pop over. And let's try that function. So we'll do a reload. This button here just runs the reload command. Just saves me having to type it each time. Let's do function give suit. Ah, there's my suit. Nice. So if we go here, we can put our spacesuit on. Cool. I've now got my spacesuit on. Excellent. Looks all right. That'll do. Let's take off the boots and let's go back. Right, I would say that's done. Let's close all these windows down. Control, I've forgotten, KW, there we go. Now let's give ourselves an oxygen tank. So we'll give that S. I think I'll use Heart of the Sea. That's a tanky looking thing. And it'll have some custom data equals open and close. I'm going to say oxygen true. We'll use that to check if it is an oxygen tank. It'll have a max level, which we'll set to, which one's this? 6,000. Okay, we'll set this to 6,000. And it will have a current level. And when I spawn it in, that will be full. So 6,000 as well. We'll give it an item name. Actually, let's give it a proper name with some stuff in it. Let's give it some text, some color, and we'll make it bold. So we'll say bold there. We'll give it some text. The text will be oxygen tank, and the color we'll just set as gold. Okay, so it's got a name. We'll give it some lore so people know how to use it. Lore equals open and close, and we'll have one element. Let's put some text in there. And we'll have another element. Oops. And we'll have some text in there as well. Okay. Right, it's not happy because it said, well, what do you want in here? I want some text. There we go. And we'll just say right click to use. And on the next line, we'll also have text. And this line will say, we're spawning it in so we know it's full. So we'll say oxygen 6,000. So we've got a bit of lore. Now I want to be able to eat it. Well, I want to be able to do a right click detection on it. I'm not actually going to eat the oxygen tank. So we'll have a food component. And food, nutrition, no, I don't want any nutrition from eating it. Saturation, no. Can always eat, yes, I want to be able to top up with oxygen even if I'm not hungry. And eat seconds, a very long time. We'll put 1,000,000. Okay, so now I can right click that whenever I want. I want to hide the additional tooltips, so let's do hide additional tooltip equals curly brackets. I want to set its max size as well, so let's do, or max stack size, sorry, oops, forgot a comma. Max stack size, we'll say 1, so they can only carry 1 in each slot. And if it's full, I want it to have an enchantment glint. So we'll set that override to true. Let's save that. Let's pop back to Minecraft. Let's do a reload, which is much easier if I can see properly. There we go, reload. And we'll do function, give tank. Did we just do the 6,000 tank? I think we did. Okay, that looks oxygen tank, right click to use, oxygen 6,000. It looks like it's got the enchantment glint, easy to see when it's on the floor. Yep, so that must be full. Cool, that works. Let's go back. I'm literally just going to copy that. Copy, I'm going to paste it into oxygen tank 12,000. And wherever it says 6,000, I am going to change it to 12,000. So I'm going to highlight 6,000. And I'm going to press Control, Shift, and L. And then you can see it's selected 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. And I'm just going to do 12,000. 12,000, 12,000, 12,000. Okay, let's save that. I don't think there's any point checking, but we will just in case. We'll go back. We'll do function, give tank 12,000. And we should have a 6,000 tank and a 12,000 tank. Cool. Probably a good idea just to do a little data get. Just to check. Selected item, let's have a look. We can see it's current 6,000, max 6,000. It has oxygen 1B, those important things. Yep, all looks good. Let's go back. Okay, so we've given pretty much everything we need. Let's go on to the load function and set up some scores. I want an oxygen level, so let's do scoreboard, objectives, add. I'll prefix it with ID, my initials, ID, infernal device, oxygen. That'll do. Dummy. That's somewhere where we can store the oxygen level. I'm going to set a maximum oxygen level for the player, just for easier referencing later. Scoreboard, players, set. What shall I call them? Fake player, ID, player, oxygen, max. We'll set that to 6,000. Make sure we set that ID oxygen to 6,000. Okay, I'm going to copy that. Home. And I'm going to have one called player oxygen max modified. And it's going to be the max minus 21. Now that sounds a bit weird. So what would that be? 5979. When we're standing on the oxygen charger, it's going to use this number to decide if it plays a sound or not. If we use 6,000 and we stand on the oxygen charger with our spacesuit on, it's just going to keep going like it's filling up. And then it makes it very hard for the player to know if they're full. If we use this number, as long as they're pretty much basically full, the sound will stop. So the player can just stand on the charger till it sounds like they're full and then they can go. It'll make more sense later. We need refill speed, so let's set a refill speed for the charger. So scoreboard, players, set, and we'll call this one ID, charger, tank, rate. This is how fast the refill charger will refill your tank, and we'll say it will do 600 each time. And I'm going to copy that. And how fast will it refill a player? We'll say for a player it does 300 each time. Okay, all of these will make more sense when we start using them later. The main important one for the moment is ID oxygen. Let's close that, let's close that, let's close that. Right, we're going to move off to the tick, but in the tick I'm going to need a few predicates. I need to check what someone is standing on. I need to make a ticking one for refilling the oxygen, and I need something to check if they're wearing the spacesuit. So I think I'll set up my predicates first. So predicate, new file, is on charger. And I'm going to write this one myself. We'll go in there, we'll have a condition. The condition is going to be entity properties, and then we will have what entity is it going to be. The entity will be this, and we're going to have the predicate. Inside the predicate, what are we going to check? We're going to check what the player is stepping on, and we're going to be checking for a block. And inside block, we'll have a list of blocks. And I am going to be checking for a Minecraft. I've decided to use a lodestone. You can put whatever you like. So if the player, or the target of this predicate, is stepping on a lodestone, this predicate will be true. Okay, so we can use that to check if someone is standing on the charger. Let's make a new one. New predicate, new file. And we're going to call this one refill oxygen tick. Let's spell tick correctly. Now this is going to be how fast is the oxygen going to refill. I don't want it executing every tick. I want it to execute every 20 ticks. So this one we're going to write ourselves as well. It's a condition. The condition again will be entity properties, and the entity will be this, and we're going to have the predicate, and the predicate will be periodic tick. There it is, and I want this to run every 20 ticks. Let's save that. Okay, and now we need a predicate for are they wearing the spacesuit? New file. Let's call it is wearing spacesuit.json. Okay, let's pop over to misode. There's heads database. We don't need that anymore. Let's close that down. So misode, here we go. We need a predicate. Ooh, okay, there's a lot of stuff. Right, what do we want to do? Let's close down what's in there. We are going to be checking equipment. I'm going to be checking their head. Add that. And I'm going to be in their head. I will be checking for a predicate, and the predicate will be checking for custom data, and the custom data will be a string, and I will put placeholder, and I'll say done. Okay, now I think if we just copy that, we'll take it back, we'll paste it in here. The custom data I'm going to look for, well, I'm going to look for that spacesuit true, so let's set that spacesuit true. You notice that I've got speech marks around spacesuit this time. Okay, so let's copy the head bit. Copy. And I'll put a comma, paste, comma, paste, comma, paste. And it's not happy because it's got 4 heads. No one has 4 heads. So let's change that one to chest. Let's change this one to legs. And let's change this one to feet. But we're keeping the same check. We are just checking if the item in those locations has spacesuit true. Let's save that. Okay, let's go to tick. Now, in tick, what do we want to be checking for? I want to check is player in space. If they are in space, we want to give them some effects. Okay, is player wearing suit? If they are wearing their suit, then they are going to be using oxygen. Doesn't matter if they're inside or outside because it's a sealed unit. You turn the oxygen off in a sealed spacesuit, you're going to die. That's unless you take part of it off. And now we want to check if they're not in space. Is player not in space? Is probably easiest. We want to check if the player is on the oxygen charger. Process player on charger. And I also want to check if an oxygen tank is on a charger. So let's do process tank on charger. Okay. Now, let's start with is player in space. I'm going to use void air, I think. So, let's execute as all players at s if block at their feet is void air run function process player in space. Okay. Now I'm just going to go to process player in space and just put say in space. And now we'll go back to Minecraft. We'll do a reload. Okay. So, void air is basically exactly the same as normal air. And since this is a custom map, we know we have control over where the void air is. I'm going to set it in here to void air. So this would probably be easier if you had something like world edit or something. I'm going to do I was going to type world edit then. Fill, tab, tab, tab. Copy that. And I'm going to go up here and do fill, tab, 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 and then paste in the other coordinates. And I'm just going to say void air. Replace air. Okay. So as far as we're concerned as the player, there is absolutely no difference. We can't see any difference, nothing extra happens, but if I walk in there, it now knows I'm in void air. Now, you might not want to use void air. You could, if you wanted, use light blocks instead, so you could have a light block level of 0. You could use a light block. That would be okay as well. Or you could just, if you've got more control, if every time they have to go through a door, you could tag them. So you could say, let's go back here. Instead of doing a check for block, we could do something like, let's copy that. Take away all of that. We could do something like that. Tag equals in space. And then every time they go out of a door, you give them the tag in space. And every time they come in the door, you remove the tag in space. So that would work as well. So there's a few different ways of doing it. I'm just going to use the void air way of doing it. Let's save that. Now, is the player wearing a spacesuit? Execute as all players. Now we made a predicate for this. Predicate equals is wearing spacesuit. Run function. Process player in suit. Okay. Is the player not in space? So we could either remove the tag from them. In this case, I'm going to be checking that the block is not void air. So I'm going to be doing that, and I'm just going to be saying unless. And we'll change that to air. Okay. Now the disadvantage here is these commands are going to be running all the time. Probably fine on a custom map, it's not really going to be doing much. So you might want to go with the tagging version instead. Process player on charger. Okay, so let's execute as all players. Predicate equals ID is on charger, so they're standing on a lodestone. And this tick function is running 20 times a second, so this is where we can use our refill oxygen tick predicate to make it only run once every second. Predicate equals ID refill oxygen tick. And then we will run the function refill player using charger. Yep. Okay. And now we want to process a tank on the charger. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated. We will execute as any entity whose type equals item if items entity at S contents is a Minecraft Heart of the Sea with Minecraft custom data which contains oxygen true if predicate is on charger, if predicate refill oxygen tick, run function refill tank using charger. Okay, so we're doing basically the same thing, but first we're checking the entity's contents to make sure it is a Heart of the Sea, which there's a spelling mistake, which there's awful spelling there, what have I done? Which has the Minecraft custom data oxygen true. Is it on the charger? Is the tick every 20 ticks? If it is, refill the tank using charger. Okay, now I suppose what we'll do is we'll process the player in space. We'll start at the top. We'll work our way down the list. Now, for processing the player in space, I want to have another one of these little predicate ticks. And this one is going to be for damaging the player. How often do we want to damage the player? So I'm actually just going to copy refill oxygen tick. And I'm going to rename the copy to, what should we call this? I suppose no oxygen. No oxygen tick. That'll do. And let's change it to 50. Make it a bit slower. You put whatever value you want in there. That's 50 ticks, 2.5 seconds. Okay. Let's keep our tick function open and let's go process player in space. Say in space. Well, that's kind of useless. What do I want to do if they are in space? First, I want to decrease their oxygen. Then I want to update the oxygen display. Oh, that's supposed to be a comment. Then I want to update the oxygen display. And I want to damage the player if they have no oxygen. Damage player. So let's decrease their oxygen. That should be a nice easy one. Execute as S scores equals ID oxygen equals. So if they have oxygen, run scoreboard players remove at S oxygen 1. We'll take their oxygen down by 1. Then we're going to update the oxygen display. So let's do function. Actually, I might put this into Spacesuit. Let's have a look. I don't think I'll update the oxygen display in here because we only need to update the oxygen display if they're in their spacesuit. So I think I might take that out of there. Let's damage the player. We're going to be doing testing anyway, so if we need to run the update in there, we can come back and add it. Damage at S scores equals oxygen equals 0. Do we want... This is where we add our predicate. Predicate equals no oxygen tick. So instead of running every tick, it runs every 50 ticks. What sort of damage do we want to do? Well, we're not using a resource pack, so we can't rename any custom damage. So we're going to have to use one of the ones that already exists. We're going to do 1 heart of damage. And, well, we could use wither. So if they died in space, it said they withered away. We could use the freezing one. So it said they froze to death. We could use fireworks, so they went out with a bang. I think I'm just going to use the generic, and it will just say, player died. We'll keep it simple. Okay, so let's save that. Right. Let's do a little bit of a check, actually, because we've got Spacesuit. We're decreasing oxygen. Do you know what? I think I've made a mistake here. I think this should be player in suit. Yeah. I'm writing the process player in suit function. What I need to be writing is the process player in space. So let me cut that, and we'll go to process player in suit, and we'll paste that into there, and we will update the oxygen display. It's too early in the morning for me. I'm terribly sorry. Here we will run a function. I think we just do function update oxygen display. Okay. That seems all right. But what I realize now is I do not have any notes on how to update the player when they're in space. I know what I need to do, but to make it quicker, I will just find an actual copy. You will have to bear with me 2 moments. I'm just looking, I'm finding it. Process player in space. That looks like it. So easy to make a mistake. Okay, right. So, here we are in process player in suit. Decrease oxygen. Yes, they're wearing their suit. We're going to decrease the oxygen. We'll update their display. If they have no oxygen, then we will damage them. Let's test that. Let's do a reload. Now, I'm not in my suit because I don't have it all added. I think we will do scoreboard, objectives, set display sidebar to oxygen. I have no oxygen, so I'll probably start taking damage straight away if... Oh, nothing happens. Why is nothing happening? Okay, let's have a look. We are... Oh, because my oxygen is not higher than 1, so it's not going to be going down. And my oxygen does not equal 0. Okay, so the first thing you're going to have to do is, not go there, is set up the player with some oxygen. So let's do scoreboard, players, set me oxygen level. Let's give myself 100 oxygen. Okay, it's going down. And it's at 0. And I'm going to start taking damage. There we go. Now, if I take off my suit, I stop taking damage. What we're going to say there is a little bit, the air's coming up my trouser legs, I can breathe it. That's fine. I'm not in a sealed system. Okay, let's go back. So, process player in suit, done. Let's do process player in space. Damage the player with no suit. And let's give some effects. I mean, it's not realistic, but it's fun. So let's give effects. So first of all, damage at S, predicate equals not ID is wearing spacesuit. Predicate equals ID no oxygen tick. They're in space without a suit. They don't have oxygen. 2, and it'll be Minecraft generic again. And I'm going to give them some effects as well, just for fun. Attribute at S. Generic gravity as a modifier. We'll add. Now we need an ID for this modifier. I'm just going to give it the ID of 1. We're going to add, I think default is 0.08. So we're going to take away 0.06, or we're going to add 0.06, which effectively takes away. We're going to add minus 0.06, and this ID of 1 is important. You can only add one of the same type that has the same ID. So although this is going to keep trying to add it, it will just say you've already got ID 1. I'm not going to add it again, and I'm going to copy that and paste it. And here I'm going to change this one from generic gravity to safe full distance. And we can keep the same ID because it's now a different type, so that's fine. And we're going to add, so this is how far can they fall without being damaged. Oh, let's just say they can fall 1,000 blocks. Default is 3, so now they can fall 1,003 blocks without being damaged. Let's save that. Okay, let's go back. Now, I'm not in my suit. No, I'm not in my suit. I'm going to give myself a bit more oxygen, to be honest. Let's do that so we're not worrying about that. And let's reload. I'm not in my suit because I haven't got all pieces. Oh, I'm going to start taking damage in space. Okay. But I can jump. Whee! You can jump around in space while slowly dying. So I think what I should do is put my suit on. And now I can just jump around in space. Cool. As soon as I come out from here, I can still jump around. Why? Because we haven't done process player in air, or haven't removed a tag if you're using the tag system. So what have we got? Process player in space, done. Process player in suit, done, but we're not updating the oxygen display. We'll do that shortly. Tick function. Process player in air. Let's do that bit. Because it's quite a nice little simple one. Process player in air. Here we go. Really, as soon as they're in the air, I just want to remove the effects. So we know the ID of the effects, so attribute at S. One was gravity, so generic gravity, and it would be still modifier, but it will be removing the modifier, and its ID, there we go, 1. Cool. And then we have attribute at S, safe full distance, modifier, remove, 1. Save that, let's go back. Still jumping because we haven't done a reload. Whoop, reload. Okay, now we've got normal jump. We go into, let's say the door's open, psh, we go into space, psh, now we can jump around. And when we come back inside, oh dear me, if you fall into a gravity environment, well, that's not going to be nice. Okay, there we go. What should we do next? Let's update the oxygen display. Update oxygen display. So I'm going to use the action bar, and I'm just going to display sort of different little images I found on char map, depending how much oxygen they've got. So I'm going to execute as all players whose ID. Oh, all players. We have to do scores first, don't we? Scores equals ID oxygen equals 0. They've got no oxygen. I'm going to run, then I'm going to return, because if we're displaying this one, there's no point going down and displaying anything else afterwards. Return run, it will be a title at that player on their action bar, and we'll display 1 entry, 2 entries. This entry will have text and color. This entry will also have text and color. Now I used character map. You can copy something from anywhere. So the text here is going to be oxygen, and I'm going to say its color is dark aqua. Color dark aqua, and the text here is going to be 10 little squiggly things I found on Windows character map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them, and its color is going to be red. Okay, so let's save that. Let's pop back. Let's do a reload. Let's set myself into creative so I don't take damage when I've got no oxygen. My oxygen is going down, but let's set it to 0 to save time. Okay, so my oxygen level is empty. Lots of little red splats. Now here's where I'm going to do a bit of cut and pasting, or copy and pasting rather, just to save some time. So let me paste in the next one. Copy and paste this in, and we'll go through it. Now I seem to have split that onto 2 lines. There we go. So we're doing the same thing. We're executing as the player who's got a score, but this time I'm going to say that oxygen is between 1 and 59. And if it is, we will run return, because we don't want to run anything else after this command. We're going to put the text oxygen again, but this time we're going to have 1 little full icon and 9 little empty icons. So let's save that, go back, do a reload. So if I'm between 1 and 500, I think it was, let's set this to 200. You can see there, I've got 1 bit left, and when it gets too low, there we go, pop, I've got no oxygen. If I was in survival, I'm now taking damage. Okay. So you've got the idea of what we're going to do here. We're just checking, are there times between this? If they are, we'll display this message. And basically, the rest are exactly the same. I will cut and paste them all in, otherwise we're just going to have 15 minutes of me typing all this. There we go. So they're all the same. All I'm doing is checking different numbers each time. And so if their oxygen's a bit higher, they have 2 full, 8 empty, 3 full, 7 empty, 4 full, 6 empty. You've got the idea. Save it. We go back. We reload. And now if I set my oxygen to full, there we go, I've got full oxygen, which is nice. And as it goes down, I think I've got it going down in 600 increments. Let's just set to 3,000 and something. There we go, we've got a little bit there. When that gets a bit lower, we'll lose it. You know what's happening. Here we go, let's just watch one tick over. Go on. Pop, there goes another one. Cool. Okay, let's go back. Right, so at the moment this is only dealing with oxygen up to 6,000. I think what I'll do here actually is we'll just take that off. Save. Now, if you change the maximum amount of oxygen a player can have, load. You could change that here. If you set that to say 1,000,000, we can see that our update oxygen is just going to say, well, you're over 5,400. I'm just going to say you're full. And it's not until you get down into this range that it'll start emptying. I think that's fine. Okay, let's close update oxygen. Let's close process player in air. Let's see what we're going to do next. So I think that we're basically done. We can go into space. We can jump around. When we come back, we lose our effects. If we put our spacesuit on, we lose oxygen. If we don't have our spacesuit in space, we get hurt. Let's make a way to update the players. So in our tick, we are processing player on charger. So let's do that. Process player, refill player using charger, refill player using charger. What do I want to do in here? I want to play a sound. Player sound if player not full. I want to add oxygen, obviously. And if the player is more than full, I want to set them to full. So if player is over max, set to max. Save. Okay. So we are refilling. If we look at tick, we are refilling using refill oxygen tick. Refill oxygen tick is going to run every 20 ticks. Okay, now that is why I made this little modified score here, because that is 21. Okay, and you'll see the difference in a second. Let's refill using charger. Play sound if player is not full. So first of all, let's execute. If score at S ID oxygen is less than, and we'll set it first to player oxygen max. ID oxygen run play sound. I'm going to use the breeze because it's got a windy sound. Entity breeze inhale. We'll say block because it's the charger. We'll pretend the charger's making the sound. So for all players, those coordinates 1, 1, 0. Now we want to add some oxygen. Scoreboard, players, operation at S ID oxygen equals itself plus ID charger player rate. So each time it's going to be adding, what did we set the player rate to? It's going to be adding 300. Okay. That seems all right. And then if the player is over max, set to max. So execute if score at S ID oxygen is greater than player oxygen max ID oxygen, then run scoreboard players operation at S ID oxygen equals player oxygen max ID oxygen. Save. Okay, let's go and stand on the charger. I just pressed quit. That was useful, wasn't it? Let's go and stand on the charger. Now I can just hear that sound going up. And my oxygen is going up. So when it gets to 6,000, oh, there we go. That's good. Now, my oxygen is effectively full, but because I'm in my spacesuit, I keep taking one off the oxygen, and it's saying, well, you're less than 6,000 now, so I'm going to fill it up again. And this makes it really hard for the player to know if their oxygen's full. I want the sound to be to stop, which is why we have the max modified version. So we're going to switch from here to oxygen max to the modified version. Let's go back, do a reload. Now when I get on, it will make the sound and it stops. And it's basically saying, look, you're full enough. Off you go. So we could get off for a little bit, get back on. There we go. Okay, so we can fill our oxygen. Now we need to be able to fill an oxygen tank. Well, actually, we need to be able to use the oxygen tank, I suppose. Let's go back. We need to be able to use this oxygen tank. So we're going to need an advancement. And I think what we'll do is we'll pop over to Misode. And we'll go advancement. Oh, look, I've already set one up. Don't look, I wasn't practicing. Shh. Okay, advancement. What are we going to call it? Let's give it a criteria. We'll just call it use tank. Its trigger will be using an item. The conditions will be the item. Item will be a string. It will be a heart of the sea. Heart of the sea. We'll set the count to 1. Although we already have a max stack size of 1, so they should only be able to hold 1. And we'll check a predicate because we're going to check for some custom data. And we're going to check, I'll just put placeholder. Okay, and then if that is all correct, we will reward them with a function. I'll just put placeholder. Okay, let's copy that. Copy. Let's go back. Advancement. New file. Use tank.json. Pop that in there. Right, custom data is going to need to change. We have that as open brackets oxygen true. That's good spelling there. So that's fine. And we are going to be running use oxygen tank. So we could put that in there. ID. Use oxygen tank. Save. Okay, let's do use oxygen tank. First thing is to revoke the advancement. So advancement, revoke, S, only, my namespace, and say using, save. Boink. Okay, now be nice to me. Using. Okay, so we right click on those. We are using them. Right, let's add some extra stuff to using the oxygen tank. Ooh, I think this is going to be one of the complicated ones because we're going to have to get data off the item. We're going to have to put data onto the item. And that means I'm going to need some item modifiers. So I'm going to want 2 item modifiers. And I am not sure how to do these in Misode. I know how to write it myself, so I'm going to write it myself. So item modifier, new file. We'll do the nice easy one first. Update tank full. Now, if the tank is full, I'm going to run this item modifier on it, and it's going to have a function. And its function is going to be to set a component, and the component it's going to set is going to be, can I just type enchantment glint override? I can indeed. Let's get the Minecraft version, and we're going to set that to true. So if the tank is full, we'll run this modifier on it and give it its enchantment glint true. That's a nice easy one. Next one, a little bit more complicated. File. This is just going to be update tank. Now in here, I need to update the law so it displays how much oxygen there is, but I also need to update the custom data so it knows how much oxygen there is, and I want to remove the custom glint. So this is going to be a list of sort of functions. We're going to have 1, 2, 3 different ones. Let's stick a glint on first. So actually probably what we can do is go back to tank full, and let's copy what we've got there. Oh, we need that bottom one. Let's copy that. Give me that bottom one, thank you. Copy. We'll go back to update tank, and we'll put the glint in. So we've got one function, except we don't want true. We want false. Okay, let's do the next one. Let's do set the law. I am the law. Function. Oh. If we put them, here we go. Let's split them up. Lay it out a bit nicer. Okay, so the next one. We will have function. And we're going to be doing set law, aren't we? So I suppose set Minecraft set law for which entity? This law. Law will be a list, and we'll have one entry. And then the next entry is a list which contains 2 entries. So in here we had text, right click to use, didn't we? That was our first line. Right click to use. And the next one we had some text. And the first bit, I think, just said oxygen, and then we had another, and then we need a score. Now I need to put a score in. So how do we do a score in telraw? We have score, then we open curlies, we need a name to get the score from, and we need an objective. So the name is going to be someone temporary. I'm going to have a fake player called ID temp tank oxygen, and from that fake player I'm going to get the objective ID oxygen. Okay, so here we're going to set the law, right click to use. Next one, oxygen equals the ID oxygen score from the fake player temp tank oxygen. I'm happy with that. Let's go on to the next one. This one's a little bit more complicated. We'll have a function. We'll try to remember to put it in. There we go. In its little speech marks. This time we're going to copy custom data. So we're going to have a Minecraft. That's a whole different game where no one talks. Minecraft copy custom data. What is going to be the source of my data? The source of my data. Well, it's going to be type storage. I'm going to get it from storage. And what is the source from storage? Well, I'm going to get it from the place where I always store my data, which is ID data. Okay, and where are we going to be putting it? Ops, which I believe is square. So operations, I believe. So the source. And where are we going to stay? So we're getting it from ID data. Whereabouts in ID data? Now the reason why this is not happy is because I've not opened and closed some curlies. So let's do that. There we go. Source. And I'm going to get it from current. So I'm going to be looking in ID data current. And I'm going to copy that into a target. And the target on the item is also called current. Do I need my little... There we go, sorry. And what sort of operation am I going to do? What will the operation be? Well, I am going to replace the data that's there. Okay. I really should learn how to use misode more. So what are we doing here? We've got 3 separate ones. I see a mistake here somewhere. We'll try and fix that in a minute. Missing key mode. Okay. Mode. Let's put that key in there just so this is happy. Mode. We will be doing replace section. Save. So we have 3 different... Well, you don't need a little comma at the end. There we go. Let's try and stow that sentence again. We have 3 different modifiers. We have one here, which is going to set the component and just remove its enchantment glint. We have one here, which is going to set its law to equal right-click to use, and oxygen equals this player's oxygen score. And we're going to copy some custom data from ID data current, and we're going to copy that over the current data. And the current data, if we do a data get entity at s selected item, we can see that we are using current here, and that's how much oxygen the item currently has. Okay. Tricky, but done. Let's get rid of update. Let's get rid of update tank. And we will stay in use oxygen tank. Right. What am I going to do if I use the oxygen tank? So we've revoked the advancement so they can do it again. Right, if they don't have a tank in their main hand, I don't want them using it from their offhand. So exit if tank not in main hand. I need to get the amount of oxygen that is in the tank. Get tank oxygen level. Then we will need to, well, if there's no oxygen, we'll exit as well. Exit if tank is empty. And then let's find out how much oxygen does the player need to be full. Get player's oxygen needs. What about so now either the player might need more oxygen than is in the tank. Okay, so player needs more than tank has, and we'll also have tank has more than player needs. And then we need to remove the oxygen from the tank. Remove oxygen from tank. But this might end up being less than 0. So if tank less than 0, then set to 0. Now we need to save the value into storage. Save oxygen left into storage. And the reason we're saving it into the storage is because our update tank is getting the value from storage. Here, ID data current. So we need to update that. And then what do we need to do after that? Let's play a sound. No, we need to update the item. So we'll then have to update tank. And if we make it all the way to the end, then we'll play a sound. Ooh, okay, there's a lot to do in this one. So exit if the tank is not in the main hand. That seems like it should be easy enough. Execute. Unless items entity at S weapon main hand only is a heart of the sea, but it must have the custom data. Minecraft custom data must contain oxygen true. If you set this to equals, it is going to say, oh, it's not right. It does have oxygen true, but it doesn't. But it has other stuff as well. We want tilde oxygen true. Then I suppose we just run, return, fail. I felt like I made a spelling mistake there. Yeah, I did. Okay, right down the end here. Let's do the play sound. Play sound. We'll use that breeze again. Breeze, inhale. Let's say they're using it like neutral this time. For all players at the coordinates, I suppose, which would be at the player who's using the tank. What do we want here? 1. Let's increase the pitch a bit for fun. There we go. And let's also say shoop, because that's the noise it makes. Save. Right, so if I click on this now, it should only work if the heart of the sea is in my main hand. Let's try. Do a reload. How much oxygen have I got? None. Let's take off the suit so I'm not using oxygen. How much oxygen is in the 6,000 tank? Right, let's put it over there. I try and use it, nothing happens. Let's put it in the main hand. And we get the shoop sound. You see? See, it is spelt like that. Cool. Okay, let's go back. Get the tank's oxygen level. Okay. Execute, store result. So we need a fake player. Score. ID. What should we call them? Temp. Tank. Oxygen. Oxygen level. Matches. What am I doing? Run data. Get from entity at S. Selected item. My selected item will have a component. Or components rather. The components I'm looking for is Minecraft custom data, and the custom data I'm looking for is current. Okay, so that should get the value from it. Exit if tank is empty. I'm very sorry about that, dog. This is such a long video. I do not want to start recording again. Execute if score ID temp tank oxygen, ID oxygen. I'm going to pause the video while that dog just keeps barking. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Let's continue. Execute if ID temp oxygen tank, ID oxygen level, matches less than 1. So it's got nothing in it. Then we will run, return, run, and we'll do a tell raw command. We'll let the player know. Tell raw at S. Open and close. And we'll just have some text. We'll do a simple one. We'll just say tank is empty. Well, that's a bit of a warning. So let's make it red as well. Color. I keep trying to spell it the English way. Red. Okay. Get the player's oxygen needs. Let's do that next. Let's do scoreboard. Players. Operation. We'll have another fake pair. ID. Temp. Player. Needs. ID oxygen. So we're copying the players. We're going to copy the maximum amount the player can have. ID player oxygen max. So that will give us 6,000 because we set that in the load function. And then I need to take away how much they've currently got. So scoreboard, players, operation, player needs, which is currently set to 6,000, will equal itself minus equals minus. Which way round does it go? Minus equals the players. What have I done wrong here? I haven't said what ID oxygen. There we go. The dog has thrown my brain completely off course. Equals itself, and take away the player's oxygen. So we're going to get the maximum amount of oxygen the player can have, 6,000, and we're going to take off, and we're going to put that into how much the player needs, and then we're going to take off how much the player currently has. Okay, so now we know how much the player needs. What if... Actually, we should do, if the player is full, we should exit. We should put an exit if player is full. Exit if player full. Didn't even think of that. If they're full, they don't need any, do they? So let's say execute if score at S ID oxygen is greater than or equal to ID player oxygen max ID oxygen, then run return run tell raw at S. This one, not really a warning, I'll just leave it white. Your oxygen is full! Exclamation mark. Okay, now we want to find out what do we need to do if the player needs more oxygen than there is in the tank. So execute if score how much is in the tank, ID temp tank oxygen, ID oxygen is less than the player's needs, then we will run scoreboard players operation at S ID oxygen equals itself plus temp tank oxygen ID oxygen. So if the player needs more than the tank has, we'll copy everything in from the tank. What if the tank has more than the player needs though? So execute if score ID temp tank oxygen is greater than or equal to what the player needs, then we will run scoreboard players operation at S ID oxygen plus equals what the player needs, ID oxygen. So if the tank has more than the player needs, we will add what the player needs. If the player needs more than the tank has, we will add what is in the tank. Okay, now we need to remove the oxygen from the tank. So we will do scoreboard players operation, and we've stored it in temp tank oxygen, ID oxygen, minus equals the player's needs dot ID oxygen. Okay, now if the player needed more than the tank had, the tank would now be less than 0. So if the tank is less than 0, let's set it to 0. Execute if score temp tank oxygen, ID oxygen matches 0 or less, then run scoreboard players, set temp tank oxygen to 0. Okay, now we're going to need to save what's left into storage so we can use it with our item modifier. We need to save it into, what did we call it? We called it current, didn't we? So execute, store the result into storage, ID, data, current, as an integer, multiply it by 1, run scoreboard players, get from the temp tank oxygen, get its oxygen level. Okay, now we need to update the tank. So let's do item, modify, entity, @s, weapon main hand, because that's where I'm holding the tank. It's only in my main hand. Update tank. Oh my god, that's a long one. Okay. When you look at it all at the same time, it's a bit overwhelming. That's why we break it down and have our little heading so we know what we're doing one step at a time. Let's go and try that out and see if we can actually give ourselves some oxygen. I have 0 oxygen at the moment. There is 6,000 available in that one and 12,000 available in that one. So if I right click that one, I should get 6,000. Shoop. I do indeed. What if I try and run it again? I'm full. Okay. And we've lost our enchantment glint. You can see it's a little bit different now because it's not full anymore. Let's look at it. It now says oxygen 6,000. Let's do a data get. And we can see that its current is 6,000, its max is 12,000. That is correct. Okay, let's set my oxygen to, let's say, 1,000. So I need 5,000 more. Let's slop again. We're full again. Let's check our item. There's only 1,000 left. That's correct. Let's set to 1,000 again. Let's use this one more time. I've only gone up to 2,000 and the tank is empty. Tank is empty, oxygen 0. Okay. Woof. Right. This is such a long one. I'm so sorry. We need to be able to refill the tank using a charger. I can refill myself. Yeah, let's crack on and get this last bit done. Refilling the tank using the charger. That's refilling the player. No, we want to refill the tank. What do we want to do in here? First, we have to get the current amount of oxygen in the tank. So, get tanks oxygen. And then we also need to know how much oxygen the tank can actually fill or take. Get tanks max. If the tank isn't full, we'll play a sound. Play sound if not full. We need to add oxygen to the tank. Add oxygen to tank. Now here's a possibility that if the tank was at sort of like 5,999 and we added, I think we're adding 600 each time, well then it's going to be too full. So if tank is over max, then set to max. Anything else we need to do? We're going to need to save the oxygen back on to the tank. So let's just call it update tank. Oh wow. First we need to save it to storage. Save oxygen to storage. Remember the update uses the storage. Then we'll update it. Anything else? If it's full, we'll give it the enchantment glint. If full, give glint. Okay. Anything else? We'll find out as we go along. Get tanks oxygen. Let's start with that one. Execute, store, result as a score. And we can use the same name, temp tank oxygen, ID oxygen, run data get from an entity at S. Wow, this is going to be a little bit harder. So let's check our tick function. Process tank on charger. We're executing as the item. Okay, so we need to get the thing from the item. So that would be stored in item dot components dot Minecraft custom data, and we still call it current though, current. And now we need to get its max. I think that's basically going to be pretty similar to this. So let's copy that, paste that. Instead of getting the current though, we want to get the max, and we don't want to override our other name. So let's say temp tank oxygen max. Let's play a sound if it's not full. So, well, we've got its max and we've got its current, so we'll just compare them. Execute if score. Well, I didn't put if. Execute if score. Its current is less than its max. Run play sound, ploy sound, play sound. The breeze inhale. This is the charger, which we say is a block for all players at those coordinates 1, 1, 0. Now we need to add oxygen to the tank. Scoreboard, players, operation, temp tank oxygen, oxygen equals itself plus, we should have ID charger tank rate, ID oxygen. That's fine. If the tank is over max, then set it to max. Okay, execute if score temp tank oxygen, ID oxygen is greater than temp tank oxygen max. Then we will run scoreboard, players, operation. We will set temp tank oxygen equals temp tank oxygen ID oxygen equals temp tank oxygen max ID oxygen. Now we need to save the oxygen to storage, so we will execute store result into storage ID data, and we are using current. It's an integer. We'll multiply it by 1. We will run scoreboard players get from temp tank oxygen the oxygen level. Now we need to update the tank, so that's the item modifier. Item modify entity at S contents update tank, and if the tank is full we want to give it the glint, so we will execute if score temp tank oxygen equals temp tank oxygen max. Then we will run item modify entity at S contents update tank full. Save that, go back to Minecraft, reload. So what we got on here at the moment is 0. Let's use this one here. What have we got left? We've got 2,600. Let's chuck it. Okay, I can hear it filling up. And it's full because it's got the glint back. Okay, let's put it on for a little bit. Let's pick it up again. So that filled it up 600. No point waiting for this to fill all the way up. We are done. Okay. Sorry about that. That was a crazy long one. I got a bit carried away. So what we've got is, we should stop that. we have a spacesuit. If we put it on, we lose oxygen. When we run out of oxygen, we get damaged. If we put the spacesuit on and go into space, it protects us so we don't get damaged in space. When we're in space, we can jump around a lot. We can stand on the lodestone to refill our oxygen. We can use a tank to refill our oxygen. And we can put the tanks onto the lodestone to refill the tank's oxygen. Now, I have made it just in time because I have a meeting in literally 2 minutes. That's what that beep on my phone was. It was just meeting in 2 minutes. So, job done. If you made it to the end of this one, good job. And thank you very much to WizSpencer for the idea. Take care. I will see you soon. I have my hat on, you can't see me. Goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheerio.